The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army.
Today's Friday, May 24th, and this is the Benjamin Dixon Show. Ben is out, and I am in. I am Matt Sienkiewicz, filling in for Ben, and I am joined, as always, when I host, by the illustrious Max. How you doing, Max?
Hey, good. How about you?
I'm doing all right. You want to tell the listening audience where they can find Ben? This is not an invitation to turn off this particular show, but if you do want Ben, where do you go to find Ben this week?
So Ben has been guest hosting the David Pakman Show, the YouTube channel, both on Wednesday and on Thursday. So you got a good an hour and 40 minutes of Benjamin Dixon content this week if you want to go find it. All
right, never too much Ben, and you get Max in the background there. Max is a producer on the Pakman Show. I'm sure it was all fantastic.
It was great. Loved it.
Excellent. All right, so what am I thinking about? Max, should I go back on Twitter?
Yeah, are you not on Twitter right
now?
Well,
so it's not like I didn't get Krassenstein or anything.
Right.
Like I still have my account. I basically stopped putting opinions on Twitter. I maybe it's a Twitter imposter syndrome. Like I feel like my insights were never quite witty enough, or maybe I'm terrified of just getting something wrong and having to like go back and scrub it. Or I've got kids. Like, what are they going to find someday? Is it worth it? Should I? I mean, I still occasionally put something and I'll retweet something like once a week, and like. I'll respond if I like. Sometimes if so, I'm an academic. I'm a professor at Boston College, and if I see like somebody ask an interesting question about that line of work, right, I'll like sort of give an innocuous answer. Which even then, I feel like, well, it's not like you get no reaction if you give a good answer, right? A bad answer will get a response, and I'm not really going for that. But I feel like I kind of want to be. I'm very ambivalent about the whole thing. Should I put my opinions on Twitter?
For a time, I was trying to do that, and my feeling towards it was that it was just giving me a reason to feel mad online, which I'm trying to like step back from a little bit.
Yeah,
because that's more or less kind of what people want to know, like what to be upset about or what you are upset about. Like that's the stuff that seems to get the most kind of engagement, but it feels like kind of a bad feedback loop.
Did you have anxiety about getting a response? I mean,
of course, because you want that dopamine, right? It feels good to get the attention almost.
Oh yeah, no. There's it's a very difficult book to read, but by a psychoanalyst. His name's Aaron Ballack, who wrote a book about psychoanalysis and social media, and he basically tied it. You use dopamine, use sort of a neurological way of thinking about it. This was tied into this guy Winnicott's theory of recognition, which is basically just that it's fairly simple, right? That especially children, but what the number one thing that we really want and constantly sort of yearn for, whether we think about it or not, is simply to be acknowledged that we exist.
Yeah.
Right, and that we are another person.
Yeah.
And this is actually, this is becoming an analysis session, but this is actually when I stopped posting to Twitter with frequency. Okay, follow me.
And what was frequency? Just for reference.
Not that frequent. Daily, maybe. Daily.
That's pretty frequent.
Yeah. But not like, so a tangent on a tangent. I was thinking about this because Ben is just so damn good.
Yeah.
Like, Ben is fantastic. He's these strong takes that are, like, funny, whatever. I'm not going to kiss Ben's ass too much, but, like, there's a reason that no matter what he puts up there, he gets, like, 100 retweets. Right. It could be in part because he's got all the followers, but it's mostly just because he knows how to do it. Right. Anyway, so the thing that scared me off of Twitter was the following, and this is visual, which is a terrible sort of, story to tell on a podcast, but it's like a psychoanalytic slash like neurological explanation for something which is entirely visual that we're going to put on an audio medium here. But bear with me. So on the phone app, right? There is a little, like when somebody retweets you or likes or whatever, like a little blue line comes at the bottom of the screen with that information, right?
Yeah.
And every time you see that, it's like, ooh, right? And like, it's like, whether it's dopamine or like the sense of recognition, whatever it is, your brain's like,
ooh, piece of candy.
Yeah, that's right.
That's
exactly.
Piece of candy.
That's exactly what it is. But the reason that I got so scared off of that aspect of it, I already said how I was scared about saying something stupid, scared about embarrassing myself, but I found, so that little like sort of visual of the blue like stripe at the bottom also comes in other times, including ones that you affect yourself. Like if you send somebody a reply, it like the little blue box that comes up, but instead of saying your tweet was retweeted, it just says you replied, but it looks the same. And I found my brain having the same reaction to like, you replied to Max, and I was like, right? Because like for a minute I was like, somebody must, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And the fact that my brain is so either, right, it's so chemically like kind of tied up in this, or my neuroses are so, I like to have the dual ways in which I could be messed up, right?
Yeah.
The fact that I was getting momentarily excited for this blue box to come up, even if I did it 10 times, and I knew the 10th time it's just you replying to Max, the little blue box at the bottom is not going to say somebody likes you, it's going to say you replied. Every time I would get excited.
Yeah.
Does that story make sense?
It's like when you, to me, like, my engagement on Twitter is probably far less. So the way I relate to that more is when you open Facebook and you always have a notification. You're like, oh, how is somebody like engaging with me? And it's just Facebook telling you that like something happened like 20 years ago or whatever.
Right. I was thinking birthdays.
Yeah, something just totally innocuous.
Right, and you're like a little excited, right?
Oh, you get excited and then you open it and it's like, wow, well, like what am I doing on this platform?
All right, so that didn't get us anywhere. So give me a verdict. Should I, given all of the reasons I've given you? I also just feel I tend too much towards moderation. That and that whether or not that's actually how I feel or what I'm willing to put myself out there with. I mean, this is the difference between me and Ben. There are a number of obvious differences between me and Ben, but one of them is that he like. His main thing, his main talent is sort of being out there with his opinions, right? Whereas I make my living as a stodgy college professor at a private university, and there's certain, even though I technically could, there's nothing bad would happen. I'm just sort of like trained to like kind of hold back on sort of. I always want to have a nuance in there, right? I might give you my opinion, but I always want to give you the however, which is like death in terms of like social media interaction. Yeah,
you want to give like 280 words, not like 280 characters.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Or even if I just want to if I want to do it quickly, I want it to be enough. Maybe it's just to weasel, or maybe it's to nuance, right? Depends how you look at it. So just give me a yes or no.
Yes.
All right, fine. Should the Krassensteins be tweeting?
There's going to be a lot of resistance moms who wake up tomorrow incredibly disappointed. Just for reference. Yeah. The Krassentsein Brothers have, who you'll see if you look at Donald Trump's mentions after he tweets something, have both been kicked off Twitter because they were running a botnet. So permanent lifetime ban on the platform. Yeah. So
the Krassensteins, they were one of the large group of people, probably the most successful quote unquote sort of left people, to have something set up that whenever Trump tweets, they would jump right in.
Yeah.
Say something banal and sort of resisty, right?
Yeah.
And it turns out that you would look at it and you would say like, they're just calling Trump dumb, right? Like, how is this getting 230,000 likes or whatever it is? And it turns out it wasn't.
Yeah. Yeah, and actually some engagement metrics came out a few months ago, and they were actually ranked in the top 10 engagements on all of Twitter. So at least one of the brothers was. I think it was Ed. So this was an incredibly successful botnet.
So we need to theorize this. And it's also probably true that the botnet, the whole purpose of a botnet, right, is to dupe real people into thinking you're relevant.
Yeah.
So we don't know whether it's just sort of like a stub is the botnet and then they're building up on top of it, or if like it was mostly bots. We don't know that.
Right.
But here's a side question. It struck me as extremely weird that they were so popular.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But it was even weirder that one of the brothers was more popular than the other brother. Like, and it's like maybe one of them's clever and one's not. I couldn't distinguish anything in terms of maybe one of them just bought the gold package from the from the bot farm. Because honestly, I looked at it like they're the same person. They both have the stupid Top Gun sunglasses, right? Or did they? I think they did.
One does. The other
just looks.
Maybe they look the same, but one has sunglasses on. That's how you can tell.
That's right. And was it Sunglass Guy who did better? I think it.
No, it was the other brother.
Interesting. All right. Well, that's should be a big hit for Ray-Ban or whatever.
Yeah.
But maybe not, right? So there's really no there except to say I feel a little better that it does turn out that was fake, because not that I want to suggest that I had that much more faith in sort of the Twitter crowd, but I had a little more faith in the Twitter crowd than to make those guys the most.
Yeah, it really didn't make sense to me either.
Yeah,
and I mean, they were the butt of a lot of jokes, and I think, those all turned out to be quite on the mark.
Yeah, no, and it's I mean, I guess one response that I have seen from some is it's a good reminder that the use of fraudulent, sort of things online is not whatever side you're on, that's using it too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I think there is a lesson there, which is not to morally equate. Either you can use it for really. I mean, the Krassensteins, for as sort of like kind of gross and stupid as they were, they're not Nazis, right? They're not trying to preach hate. They're not trying to put forth. They're not trying to really mess with anything that is.
There's no substance.
There's nothing
to
there.
What
That's
saying.
what I'm saying. There's just nothing there. Whereas there are people using this sort of stuff to preach hate and to whatever. I don't want to equate it morally, but I do think it is worth noting that these tools are available. And they're broadly available. And I mean, it's a lot of fun to focus on the other side when they use them.
For sure. Like when we think about botnets, I think oftentimes people think of Iranian bots or Russian bots,
right,
or maybe like Saudi bots or something like one of these Gulf countries. But I mean, the US definitely is running bot networks. We don't know what they are retweeting, but it's almost, we know this, probably can safely assume that they do so.
Right.
I mean, our European allies and other places probably do the same thing. I mean, everybody's doing it, but it's just funny that they got caught.
Yeah, no, it's really funny that they got caught. So the verdict is I am going to be sort of on Twitter based on your extremely milquetoast recommendation. I mean, you did not sell. I did not get the sense you were just dying to see me back on there strong. But you know what? You said yes. I'm going on. So I'm a yes. Glasses Krassenstein and non-glasses Krassenstein are both no's.
That's
both
right.
off.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm glad we got through that. I wanted to bring up one thing, and then you had a story that you wanted to go over.
Yeah.
Okay. So I just really, I should have the quote in front of me. I don't. I really, really enjoyed Trump calling Rex Tillerson dumb as a rock, without having a sense that it implicated him as being the guy who appointed.
I mean, he has zero self-awareness.
Just incredible.
Just zero.
I mean, whatever. There's nothing interesting ever to say about Trump, but this was like the sort of bald-faced, like the announcing that you are a terrible manager to win an argument.
Yeah, with a retired oil executive.
He is dumb as a rock. Of course he is. But the guy who appointed him's got to be twice as dumb, right? By definition.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed that fight. I don't know if you have any other thoughts on any of that stuff.
Nope.
Yeah. All right. Just wanted to make sure I put that out there, that it's rare that a Trump tweet or anything it tickles me. Plenty infuriates me, right?
Yeah.
But this one had that combination of being like a little infuriating and just like something about the sort of depth, the lack of depth, really got me with him calling his own Secretary of State pick the dumbest person he knows.
I mean, he did that with Michael Cohen, all these
he only
people
appointed him like dumb mob lawyer.
Yeah.
He didn't appoint him Secretary of State. Yeah, sure. I mean, look, we've all hired, I don't know, we hired someone to paint the house and he did a bad job, right? Well, I didn't hire him to be Secretary of State, right? It was a bad decision on my part. he appointed him to be the foremost foreign policy point person for the entire country.
Well, in Trump's White House, I think mob lawyer and Secretary of State are on the same plane.
That's the same thing. No, that's true. I'm right. Well, let's just move on. What's your story, Max?
Okay, so recently, like over the last month, kind of a weird thing has been happening in Britain, specifically regarding the European elections and a lot of the candidates who've been running for office.
Right.
So, the first incidence of this was this guy named Tony Robinson, who had a milkshake thrown on him.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
The video went viral.
Yes, the milkshaking phenomenon I'm familiar with.
Exactly. So, after this guy, Tony Robinson, who was the founder of the English Defence League, Carl Benjamin, who Ben's listeners might know of Sargon of Akkad, who's running for European Parliament in England, was also had a milkshake thrown on him. In fact, 4 times in the past week, he has had a milkshake thrown on him. Mm-hmm. Nigel Farage, formerly of UKIP, currently running under the Brexit Party, as recently as Monday, had a milkshake thrown on him. And when he was campaigning this week, he was so afraid of getting milkshaked that he stepped off his bus for only about 10 seconds to shake some hands before retreating back immediately.
Do you think do you think they had like in like heist movies, they like time out exactly how long it'll take for the cops to get there, and like, so like we've got 6 minutes after we break the seal to get in and out. I think they had like a milkshake like drill in their head, like we got 12 seconds before Wendy's opens, and they can figure out where we are, and a milkshake.
Well, Farage was in the press complaining about his security detail allowing this to happen to him. Uh-huh. So if they didn't have one before, they probably do now.
I really want to be in that meeting where they figure out exactly the distance from the shake place, and how long it take the throw to get to him, and how many little racist hands he can shake between getting off the bus and getting milkshake.
Well, the police were definitely involved because
it's an inside job.
Specifically in Edinburgh, the police had a local McDonald's shut down their milkshake making machine, which, like, if you go to McDonald's, those are always broken anyways.
I don't know.
They had it shut down.
McDonald's experience, but so is this something that people know, that McDonald's milkshake machines?
Yeah, they're broken a lot.
McDonald's has milkshake machines?
Yeah, of course.
Well, I don't know. I've been to McDonald's.
You're missing out.
Ever. but wait a minute, they have milkshake machines?
Yeah, they like pull the lever and the milkshake is...
the people inside. Okay. I guess they're not self-serve.
No.
Oh. Okay, so you're saying that you go in and not even the employees can make a milkshake?
That's right. They will not be selling milkshakes on the day that Nigel Farage was in Edinburgh campaigning.
Got it. Okay. All right. But not because the machines are broken, which apparently happens a lot.
Yes.
All right.
Exactly.
I'm learning so much here. Okay.
Okay, so the part where the story gets interesting to me is not actually what's happening. I find it kind of funny, but to me it's not really an issue any larger than just throwing milkshakes on some really bad people.
It becomes some civility argument, right? I mean, that's where it goes.
That's where we're going, exactly.
Yeah, okay, fine.
All right, so I got some tweets for you.
Okay.
So the first one...
Do I have to do something specific with these tweets, or just...
Just hear them out.
All right.
Okay, so the first one, David from...
It's already funny.
He says, symbolic assassination attempts may not be violent any more than jokes about attempted rape are violent, but a healthy political discourse culture allows no room for either.
Okay, all right.
Sam Harris?
This is quite a hit list you got.
Well, you notice the kind of person who is defending the...
Yeah, I mean... Okay, continue before I'm going to look for the patterns. All right,
Sam Harris. All of these assaults are mock assassinations, whether the perpetrator knows it or not. Pies, milkshakes, glitter, etc. reveal unavoidable weaknesses in the security of their targets and advertise their vulnerability to the whole world. The result is worse than it appears.
I mean, it appears pretty funny, so it wouldn't take much to be worse than that, I guess. But I mean, okay. I mean, this is like sort of the pitfalls of rationality, right?
Yeah.
Because when he says it, I mean, that's all kind of true, and yet it's the kind of logic that can get you sort of anywhere, like well, shaking hands is just a sign of dominance or whatever, right? You get all these things. Like, eventually, you can spill.
If you can get close enough to shake hands,
that's what I'm saying.
Can get stabbed.
That's what I'm saying, right? Like, so you say it like on the face, it sounds right, but then you think about it, and like, well, if you use that logic, you could just, you could basically make anything look to be unacceptable.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I do think it's worth pointing out, though, David Frum, who's really worried about these milkshakes, famously wrote George Bush's Axis of Evil speech, so he's actually labeling political targets, and there's real manifest physical violence that kind of results from a lot of his rhetoric.
So in his mind, the shoe getting thrown at Bush would be far worse than the destruction.
Than the Axis of Evil speech saying those words.
Right. Okay. Very good. And well, Sam Harris is not, as far as I know, is not a purveyor of direct violence, although.
Well, he has justified torture.
His language is that's right. Yeah.
Directly advocated or said
fair enough.
Torture is justifiable.
He just isn't in the position to actually start a policy, but discursively he can certainly. All right, so
are milkshakes political violence? Are they mock assassinations?
Well, I like the I like the move that Frum made for a minute, in that he sort of. So I guess I got confused for a minute, because he's a little bit hard to read, right? He's a conservative, but sort of like a respectable conservative.
That's right.
So I thought that he would be the kind of guy who would actually be really opposed to the idea of describing language as violence, just because that sort of brand of sort of respectable conservative generally, leans towards a free speech orientation, whatever that means exactly, but sort of a more traditional notion of free speech that sort of frowns upon the idea that language can be violence, right? That unless it's literally violent. Anyway, so I thought, but this has contorted him to somebody who is actually, I would guess, taking a position he doesn't ultimately agree with, and that I don't think. I find it very surprising that he would be interested in the idea that, say, somebody giving a speech on campus that people didn't like was actually in and of itself violent. Right? That tends to be a fairly, sort of like modern left perspective, if you understand what I'm saying. But because he really doesn't like this milkshake thing, he seems to be on board with that now. So, are milkshakes political violence? Well, there's a literal sense in which they're, it is assaultive, right, in a sense. A
very gentle
assault. Well, yeah, that's really... Well, so there's a sense in which, so for normal human beings, we, at this point, mostly hold the standard that any touching of them that is not invited is sort of the tantamount to assault, and any sort of aggressive touching of somebody which is not invited is and legally speaking, that is true. So he's got like technically, sure, right? But when you say political violence, it's not what you mean. You don't mean like it's technically violent and that it's technically kinetic and it's technically... That political violence, I guess, generally means assassination, right? Or some sort of terroristic thing meant to shut down discourse and like create panic. And none of that is relevant. So no... I don't.
Yeah, it's definitely not.
I don't think it's political. I'm trying to sort of like work it out from their perspective. He just doesn't like it. Right?
Yeah, I think he also might somewhat identify with these characters.
Clearly. Well,
so he sees himself.
Well, let's give him the benefit of the doubt, right? The benefit of the doubt there would be, which is it's like the worst benefit to give, but it's a slippery slope argument, right? It's
That's right. From milkshakes, we could move on to actual soda. And from there, maybe people are throwing food.
That is very funny. That's not where I was going with that, but that is very funny. I meant the slope towards we all just throw milkshakes at our opponents when we disagree with them. Right. So I think what you're getting at is that he's got two choices here. He can either make that slippery slope argument that I was just making and saying that, if we allow this, then we're just going to be throwing milkshakes at each other. I think that's implicit what he's doing. The other is to say that, no, Nigel Farage is a particular brand of, racist prick.
And all of the people that I mentioned are extremely vile characters.
You got to do that, right? But that's, that goes against his... Well, so my instinct is to say that his conservatism is of such a stripe that as much as he might hate Trump and hate everybody else, the fact that somebody is in power is enough to make it so he won't say that directly about them. So I think that's sort of the horns of the dilemma that he's on, right? He either has to go with the position he has, which is that this is just a terrible thing because it could happen to anybody, or he has to say, well, it's not happening to anybody. It's happening to people who are exceptions, people who do not deserve civility. Yeah, and he would have to argue that, like, sure, that could be a slippery slope, but we generally trust that human beings can, if there's a certain optimism. And say that you believe that people can sort out these racist, jackasses from like politicians with whom you disagree on their tax plan or whatever. And so because these are people in power, he's not going to go there, so he has to go the other way. I think does that analysis make any sense? Yeah. I mean, it doesn't speak well of David Frum, but I don't think any of us were.
It's still wrong. For me, it's...
Oh, yeah. No, clearly he's choosing the lazy version of the lazy choice, right? The hard choice is to make a true moral judgment, right? The true moral judgment would be to look at the thing that matters most here, which would be sort of I'm arguing, right, would be the inherent racism of Nigel Farage, right? Like, that's like the real bad thing. You can get over milkshakes. You can't. You get over milkshakes with a towel, right? It takes a whole long time to get over, let's say, a campaign that demonizes, whatever percent of a population for the purpose of some very questionable. So that's the. But that argument is, well, for David Frum, maybe it's hard, right? Because he's made some of his own decisions, which have reflect badly in that light. And Sam Harris is sort of directly on board with these sorts of things. I mean, the connection you're drawing, right, which is that these are people who have shown complete disregard for the interests that are sort of being symbolically defended by throwing the milkshake at Nigel Farage is well taken. Yeah. I mean, but I'll put it back to you. So basically, I agree. I think I'm doing my best here to try to come up with a little multidimensional perspective on. Do you? I mean, if I told you, hey, I just threw a milkshake at I don't know, Mike Pence. All right, somehow I was able to hit Mike Pence with a milkshake. Would you just give me a high five or be like, what are you doing, man?
Oh, that would be awesome.
You'd just be
I would love that.
So maybe there's a generational thing here. Like, as much as I would be like, in theory, that's awesome, Max. Like, don't do that, Max. But it wouldn't be like for civility. It'd be like, you yourself, don't. It's not worth.
Well, Mike Pence, theoretically, were to engage in a campaign where he directly advocated for things that were really detrimental to a lot of minority and vulnerable populations, then I would think that he would be like a valid target for ridicule and harassment.
Ridicule.
And that's kind of where I would put this.
Yeah, that's really what it comes down to. But my reaction to it, it's funny. It's got really nothing to do with Mike Pence's gloppy strawberry face, right? Like, which would only be enhanced by the gloppy strawberry milkshake. But it's like, I don't want you to do it, right? It's like, so I don't know if that is an instinct towards the civility thing, or if it's simply that it's like an act that I want to take place, but I don't necessarily want. I don't know, the person who is willing to do it. Nonetheless, I have a certain like.
It's weirdly brave.
It's weirdly brave. Maybe that's what it is, and it's weirdly brave. And maybe I'm too much of a coward to fully embrace the braveness and not be caught up in the weirdness of it. I mean, yeah. So ultimately, what you want to say is that let's look at what it really is. What it really is a harmless embarrassment for a guy who has done more than enough to create
real manifest damage.
Let's even just. I mean, that would seem to be the case, but I mean, we'll just say that he's if you want to just do apples and apples, that they have embarrassed in the worst ways anybody who's is the vice president for somebody who talked about the Mexico sending the criminals, the murderers and rapists, right, has done enough to embarrass people that we should never feel bad about him being embarrassed.
Yeah.
The thing that we're completely dismissing from those tweets is the idea that it's like a plan for execution. I mean, for an assassination.
I think it's manifestly
stupid. It's manifestly stupid because they're people, right, who stop you from having deadly weapons. At least that's their job. And they wouldn't stop you from having a milkshake.
Yeah.
So that's like me shooting you with my finger and saying I could have shot you with a gun. It's like, well, yeah, you have to go buy a gun first and all those things. Like, I wouldn't do that. Right? Anyway. So that's manifestly stupid.
Yeah.
They're being embarrassed. They don't seem to care about embarrassing, let alone, or I guess, hurting people, let alone embarrassing them.
Yeah.
So screw them. That's your attitude.
Pretty much.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying. What it ultimately comes down to is I just don't care at all if Nigel Farage is covered in milkshake. And I don't. I guess, you know what, the layer of it which is like really obvious is that, and this is too obvious, and it took me 20 minutes to get to the too obvious point, right, is that it's basically a civility argument. Let's take away the assassination argument. It's too stupid.
It's absolutely a civility argument.
It's a civility argument. And, like, Nigel Farage is going to complain about civility?
Yeah.
Like what? I mean, which basically, by that definition, civility equals wearing a suit and not being covered in milkshake. Like, that's how you know. Like, right now, I'm not covered in milkshake, but I'm wearing a t-shirt, I'm not civil. Right? Like, or if I were wearing a suit, but I was covered in milkshake, I wouldn't be civil. That's the only definition that it works by, right? Because, let's say, sending buses around London, covered in lies. That's not a civility problem, apparently, right?
Yeah.
Demonizing whatever sort of vague and specific groups of people who don't look like you. That's not a civility problem. Yeah, I mean, that's like the ultimate hypocrisy that's laying below it. The assassination thing is really funny on top of it. Right? I mean, like...
Yeah, I mean, I got a kick out of these tweets, for sure. I mean, they're completely unironic, but if you just look at them as a piece of satire, they're fantastic.
The lack of self-awareness is really quite something. All right, so let's just do a little scoreboard here, and we can wrap up today's show. Lukewarm yes for me tweeting.
Yep.
Really enthusiastic no for the Krassentein's tweeting, both glasses and not glasses guy.
Yeah.
Or yes for them being kicked off, depending on if we invert it.
Yeah.
And then we have you have a big thumbs up for milkshaking. I have a dad I mean, yeah, but don't get caught kind of thing going for milkshaking. So we'll give that a one thumb up and one kind of drifting off to the side. Is there anything else to tally up for today?
Nope.
Oh, I'm going to give a big thumbs up for trying to make somebody else stupid by describing how bad decisions you make as president of the United States. So that's a big thumbs up for me for the president. So, all right, that's going to do it for today's episode of the Benjamin Dixon Show. Thanks for putting up with us. If you made it this far and you want to see these lukewarm tweets that got the lukewarm future tweets that got the lukewarm endorsement from Max over here, you follow me at Media Studied. Max, what's your handle?
I'm at Maximillionaire on Twitter.
All right, give us a follow. Give us if you made it through that, give us some feedback. We can take the pain.
Yeah.
It's, you know what? It's nice to be recognized.
That's right.
Oh man, can you imagine if that little blue box came up at the bottom of the screen? How that would feel?
Man, my body is already anticipating
it's tingling.
The dopamine.
All right, so listen to Ben on the David Pakman Show. It is kind of confusing.
Yeah.
Listen to Ben on the David Pakman Show. Listen to us on the Benjamin Dixon Show, and Max's imaginary show, David Pakman's hosting, just to fill in the circle. All right, very good. We'll see you guys next time we do this.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army.
Thank you.